Hello, welcome back to today's second video. Going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days for today's second video. This takes us into the first week of February, going to around the 5th of February, actually. So this is the period that we're looking at to possibly bring some significantly colder weather. It's just in around the day 10, day 11 time frame. Some of the models are hinting at this possibility, but whether it actually comes off, got to wait and see. As always in the UK with very cold weather, it's on a knife edge, but certainly the hints are there that we could pull this off. So we're going to have a look at the shorter range models. We've already done JMA Friday covering the month, and that's split. We've got the JMA, which is seeing the chance of this much colder weather, versus the CFS, which just wants to keep things mild. So we've got a split there. And we'll see what's happening with the shorter range models with the GFS and the ECMWF for today's second video. Just say if you want to watch JMA Friday, it's here on the homepage. Just scroll down page a little bit and it's above the snow desk. Interestingly, later on today, Terry Scully will release his preliminary February thoughts. So have a look at that around 7 o'clock this evening. Will be quite an interesting read. But we're going to start off by having a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts for the next 7 to 10 days with Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure and blue to low pressure. So this is what the ECMWF is doing. We've got quite a big trough plunging into Canada and North America, which you can see here with these blue colours. So we've got a big area below average heights through Canada and going down into North America. That could bring some very cold weather into the north and the northeast of America once again, perhaps as we go to around day 8 to day 10. Then the jet stream comes across the Atlantic. It moves through the northern part of the Atlantic, then plunges southwards with this deep trough that we've got setting up just here. So this is going to bring, I think this will bring wintry conditions into northern and northeastern parts of Europe. It's just how far west this trough of cold air can back. But that's where the two main areas of cold are, on our side of the pole anyway, in the 7 to 10 day time frame. The complicating factor for us is this ridge that we've got here in the Atlantic, because that keeps a jet stream to the north, and then it sort of goes in that kind of direction. So that's not a perfect setup to be bringing in very cold conditions. You will want to take that high pressure further north. We do have some above average heights in this area, but essentially you want to centre this ridge a lot further north, which then would allow this trough to back into the west of Europe like that. As it is, it's probably hinting at the chance of some cooler weather as we go to the 8 to 10 day time frame, the east of the earth, but it isn't perfect for a very cold spell of weather. Now this is a little bit better. This is the GFS, a little bit better from the point of view of cold, I should say. So again, we have that cold trough across Canada and moving down into North America like that as well. The jet stream is pushing out of America rather like that. We've still got that ridge in the central Atlantic, but it's tying back to a stronger ridge over Greenland. So essentially we push the jet stream northwards and then we plunge it southwards like that, and this backs this cold trough into the west of Europe as well. So this would have cold on both sides of the Atlantic. There is an idea that only if America gets cold, we can't get cold conditions in the UK. That is not correct. Both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, the east of America and the west of Europe, they can be cold at the same time if you've got a strong enough blocking feature through the Atlantic and heading up towards Greenland, because if you've got the block up there, then it can push the cold out of the pole down into Canada and America like that, but it can also push it out of the pole and down into Western Europe like that. It's quite uncommon though, it doesn't happen all that often, but that is suggesting, or it's hinting, about 500 millibar high anomaly flowchart, but we might have a period of very cold weather coming up on both sides of the Atlantic through the earlier part of February. But again, after its size, ECMWF isn't quite there at this point. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average. We're looking at London today. So it's going to go very mild over the weekend to the start of next week. Look at this big push up in the temperature. We may get temperatures to 15 or 16 degrees, would you believe, on Sunday afternoon. That's around 60 Fahrenheit. It will feel very spring-like indeed. But after that, it looks like we're going quite cool or even cold as we go into the middle part of the week, going below the red line, below the 30-year temperature average. So some colder weather coming up through the course of next week. And then we go further into the first week of February. So this is the 1st of February just here. This is the first week to the 2nd week of February. Just there. And at that point, we have got quite a lot of scatter, again, you'll notice, within the ensembles. So there are several ensemble members here that are milder than average, but several that are colder than average. And I think the GFS for the first week of February is shifting further towards the colder side of things. You'll notice the white line, which is the ensemble mean. So that's taking each individual line of spaghetti, each individual coloured line, taking all of them and creating a mean out of all of those different ensemble members, and that is generally throughout most of the run now from this point here, below the red line, below average. So I think the GFS ensembles are shifting onto the colder side of things. In terms of precipitation, so reasonable amount of dry weather coming up through the rest of this week and through the weekend. Some rainfall around there associated with dropping temperature. That's an area of low pressure that's coming through late Tuesday to Wednesday, and that could bring something a bit wintry actually to northern parts of the country. And then some precipitation spikes after that, but overall it does look like a relatively dry period actually through this early part of February. That's something that came through very clearly with JMA Friday. Whilst there is a big split in terms of what the feel is going to be like, what the temperatures going to be like, one thing that did come through loud and clear is that generally it is going to be really quite dry as we go into February. This is the surface temperature ensemble again for London. So that's 10 degrees just there. That's freezing just there. Plus 20 is up here. Minus 10 is down there. Remember, this is looking at the surface rather than the upper air temperatures. Very mild over the weekend. That's probably underestimating the mild temperatures. I think we'll probably get those temperatures up to around there somewhere through to Sunday. After that, there's a drop in temperature, and then generally keeping things quite cold then as we go through into February. There is a bit of scattering there again though, so some ensemble members are reaching around 10 degrees with their maximum temperatures, but several ensemble members are going for near ice days, including the operational run, which I'll show you in a moment, of the GFS. So again, it is highly uncertain what's happening in this period from the 1st through to the 11th of February. A lot of uncertainty. I think probably it will start off a little bit on the colder side. Where things go beyond that, again, that's where all the uncertainty is coming from. Temperature anomalies are going to look like this once the page has finished updating. So there we go. Temperature anomalies for the next week are coming out. This is from the 26th of January to the 3rd of February. Coming out milder than average for the UK and Ireland, as it is the most parts of Europe. I would expect those are going to start to trend a bit colder once we get the weekend out of the way. Bear in mind, this is factoring in those very mild temperatures we've got coming up on Sunday, and to some degree for the south on Monday as well. But I expect these to start trending colder over the next few days. I don't show you these very often. These are the mean surface temperatures in 2 weekly periods based on the midnight run of the GFS. So what you see here is week 1 surface temperatures taking us from the 26th of January to the 3rd of February. You'll see most of the cold air is pushed up to here in the northeast of Europe, other parts of Europe in those green colours, which is relatively mild for the middle of winter. But look what happens as we go through to week 2. Temperature anomalies, which is the 3rd through to the 11th of February. Notice these blue colours, excuse me, again, these blue colours are surging from Russia and Scandinavia across many parts of Europe. Those are maximum temperatures below freezing throughout most of the day. So obviously very cold air is going to be pushing out of the northeast of Europe, if the midnight run is based on midnight run of the GFS, if that is correct. Let's have a look at the precipitation anomalies. They look like this. So we're coming out for the week ahead, generally a little bit above average for the north and the west, close to average elsewhere. Just down in the very far southwest, it's a little bit drier than average there. Not sure why these pages are refreshing as we're going along, but we'll persevere. So this is the midnight run of the GFS. We see that starting on Tuesday, we're in a cooler air mass by Tuesday. It isn't necessarily all that cold, but it is a bit cooler as the weather front pushes southwards on Monday. That will be quite a weak feature. Low pressure moves through Tuesday to Wednesday. This area of low pressure just here, that's pushing through and bringing some outbreaks of rain. And in the north, the air is turning colder again, so some of that might turn a little bit wintry through the course of Tuesday to Wednesday. This is midday Wednesday with that low pressure in the North Sea. The wind's pulling into the north, so turning quite a lot colder then. And as I said, we could have some wintry potential even next week across the northern parts of the country around the middle of the week. That low pressure gets out of the way. By Thursday, we're into this northerly wind, so obviously it is quite cold through the middle part of the week. The wind then backs to the west at the end of next week, so it becomes briefly a little bit milder for a couple of days. But then we go up towards day 10. This is Sunday the 4th of February, where we're starting to bring colder air back in from the northwest again. And this is day 10, which is Monday the 5th of February. And by then, we've got quite a blocking feature starting to set up in the Atlantic. We saw it on the height anomaly flow charts. The ridge is building from the Atlantic and going up towards Greenland, with the trough plunging southwards. That's opening the door to those really cold northerly winds. And then that continues further into the first week of February, so a little bit beyond day 10. We find the wind in from the north of the northeast, bitterly cold air pushing out of the northeastern parts of Europe, going up to Wednesday the 7th, stays very cold indeed. There's the upper air temperatures. Look how cold it is across much of Europe. Really cold upper air temperatures, and we do get the -10 isotherm through the UK on this midnight run of the GFS as well. So that's kind of like a big freeze setting up there. Really cold air through the first week of February. And then it's staying cold as we run up towards the end of the run. We maintain those cold conditions. That was the midnight run of the GFS. This is the 6 o'clock run, and we start on Tuesday again, looking very similar. A little bit cooler on Tuesday, not necessarily all that cold. Then this low pressure plunges through the country Tuesday to Wednesday, brings some cold air with it. And again, on the northern side of this low pressure, there could be some sleet or some snow. By Thursday, the 1st of February, the winds are in from the north, so it still looks quite cold then. Turns a little bit less cold at the end of next week as the winds back into the west, bring cloud and rain in from off the Atlantic. And then we run up to day 10. This is Sunday the 4th of February. Low pressure pushing through to the north of Scotland. Behind it, the winds are turning into the north. This ridge is building through the northern Atlantic. And so we go to day 10, which is Monday the 5th of February. Almost identical in evolution, really, to the midnight GFS, with the ridge building through the Atlantic going to the north. The trough is being pushed to our south, and between the two, we squeeze the isobars in from the north and the northeast. And off and running we go into another really quite cold spell through the first week of February. So a little bit beyond day 10, that's how we're looking. Very cold winds generally in from the east, trying to build a Scandinavian high as well within that cold air, as we go into the extended part of the GFS. There's the upper air temperatures, again bitterly cold across many northern and central parts of Europe. And that -10 isotherm is getting ever closer to the UK as well. So the GFS operationals are very keen to develop really quite a cold, potently cold spell of weather through that first week of February, starting from around the 4th of February and then running into the second week. We'll just have a look at the ECMWF finally, because we saw on the height anomaly flowchart, this isn't going to be as cold. So this is what the ECM is showing for Tuesday to Wednesday, pulling down some cooler air from the northwest, but we don't get that initial shot of northerly winds that the GFS is showing for the middle part of next week. So that's a difference already for the middle part of next week, significantly milder then. We go through into the weekend of the 3rd and the 4th of February, and we don't get that push of air from the northwest. So we run up to day 10. That's how we are looking at day 10, with the high pressure just centred to the west of Ireland. We have got quite a lot of cold air to our north and northeast and through Central Europe, but we're doing something like that with the flow, with the jet stream, so we're just still on the mild side of the jet. Essentially, the problem is that we aren't pushing this ridge far enough north to be able to push this cold air via a trough of low pressure south. That's what the GFS is showing. The ECMWF does not show that. We'll be interested to see whether the ECMWF was a mild outlier. Perhaps we can just have a quick look at that very briefly. So we're going to look at the ensembles for De Beeld in Holland, and that will tell us whether this morning's ECMWF run was a mild outlier. So I'm just going to change that over and click that, and we should be able to see whether it was a mild outlier. And actually it does look like it wasn't necessarily a mild outlier, but it was one of the warmer ensemble members. It's depicted on this chart by this red line just here. We can see that whilst it was a mild outlier, it was definitely on the warmer side of the ensembles. This black line just here is the ECMWF control run. It extends out further. The ECMWF finishes at day 10, of course, the operational, which is just there. The control ECMWF, that extends out further than the operational, depicted by this black dash line. You can see that was very cold through this extended period. It was one of the colder ensemble members. So the ECMWF ensembles appears to be split, really. I think it, on the colder side, though, maybe 60-40, I would suggest, on the colder side with these ensemble members compared to those ensemble members. Perhaps it might be 50-50, but it looks like it is more or less split just about 60-40 on the colder side to me. And the operational was, whilst it wasn't an outlier, it was definitely one of the warmest options on the table. Remember, that's for De Beeld in Holland, but it's only over the other side of the North Sea, so it does have some bearing on what you'd expect to see if we could have a look at the ECM ensembles for us. So it's all to be determined, really, this first week of February. I think we're going to concentrate on next week, first of all, because even that isn't completely sorted out. It looks like we'll probably get a cold snap through the middle of next week, but the ECM just hovering, wavering a little bit on that as well. I suspect overall that ECMWF run was probably a bit of a milder run from start to finish. So I expect we will get this cold snap through the middle part of next week. Probably turns milder in around a week's time. And then the all-important dates are around sort of the 4th, 5th of February. That's when we might start to introduce a very cold spell of weather if the GFS operationals are right. Bear in mind, the ECM is not completely sold on that at the moment, to say the least. Right, that's brought you up to date with everything. Now, this evening, we're going to have Terry Scully's preliminaries thoughts for February. So have a look at that. It'll be released around 7 o'clock this evening. Come back for that then. That's all for now. And thanks for watching. Tomorrow, of course, weekend forecast. And we're going to have our first ENSO update as well. I should just tell you about that. We're going to have our first look at ENSO tomorrow evening. So come back for all the updates over the weekend. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.